Sticking with the theme of getting away from it all, this weekend Jewish families are being encouraged to make a special effort to mark their Sabbath. Shabbat UK is a celebration of the Jewish Day of Rest and aims to highlight the importance of community and family activities rather than being at work or online. But it's not just an issue for Jewish families. A new survey suggests that an increasing number of Christians feel that 4 of the 10 commandments are no longer relevant, including the need to keep the Sabbath day holy. With shops and DIY stores open, less than 1 in 3 believe in preserving Sunday as a day of peace. So, is it important for all of us to have a dedicated day of rest and reflection, or is the idea of the Sabbath incompatible with modern lifestyles? We're here to discuss that are Angela Epstein, a broadcaster and writer, Kathy Lett, a novelist, Reverend George Hargreaves, a Christian campaigner, and rejoining the panel, journalist Serena Bergman. Well, let's just put aside the fact that we're all working on a Sunday. And Kathy,
yes.
Are we losing something if we lose a national day of rest, our Sunday?
It was never a day of rest for women. Because even though women make up 50% of the workforce, we're still doing, I'd say, 99.9% of all the housework and all the childcare. A woman's work was never done, not by men anyway. So you think a Sunday roast, oh, you get up at 10, peel the vegetables. I have cooked herds of beef, flocks of lambs, schools of salmon. It's exhausting. So I'm totally against coming back to that big Sunday day off for men and the family and on for women.
Well, you should come to my household because I do the Sunday roast. Angela, is it unrealistic to expect everyone to have the same day as a rest day?
Well, I think you have to look at it either commercially or spiritually or holistically or any of your other favourite words that end in "ly." But the upshot is, I mean, as a Jewish person, my Sabbath is, if you like, goes from sundown to sundown. So Friday night to Saturday night, I have what you would call a digital detox. No phones, no tellies. We go to synagogue, we have family meals, you see friends, and it's sort of ageless. It's been like that for generations. It's almost like the Almighty, you know, if you buy into that, which I very much do, had the great foresight to realise that a time would come when humanity would evolve where we couldn't cope without plugging it in or buying it. And so my favourite time of the week is Friday afternoon, where everything gets switched off. But what I would say, ironically, is that even though I have that kind of 25-hour digital detox, I miss Sunday being a day of rest because I'm very British as well as being very Jewish. Because, you know, shopping and trekking around the town centre is a default activity now. So as before, it's like, well, there's nothing else to do except go to the park, go to the countryside, have some time with the family. You know, my 13-year-old will say, oh, you know, can we go and maybe go to you know, to the shops or whatever? And I'm saying, can we go to the park? And she's going, really? You know, we have a sort of quasi-American conversation like that.
Serena, we talk a lot about work-life balance. Having a Sunday as a rest day gives us that. It forces us to have that work-life balance, doesn't it?
Arguably not, as was very eloquently explained by Kathy. And I think what we really need to think about in terms of work-life balance is how the world is working today, not these kind of regressive ideas of looking back decades into how we did it in the past. Today, it's been proven over and over again that flexible working, remote working is actually so beneficial to society as a whole. It makes people more productive, it makes people happier, and it allows us to develop that work-life balance on our own terms, not on the terms of people who are perhaps looking at their very specific situation.
Fewer people, George, are having Sunday as a rest day. Even Christians don't believe it.
Well, I would want to see the data on that. I'm with Angela. So if the Almighty has said, let's have a day off, I think, well, we're looking at the owner's manual for how we should live. And I think if we think about it, not necessarily from a religious point of view, because I'm not for legislating a religious practice. I'm dead against that. But just looking from a practical point of view, you know, I can remember an old song that said, I wish it could be Christmas every day. Well, it could actually be Christmas for 52 days of the year. If we just say,
so
let's have Sunday off and let's close down Tesco's, close down Sainsbury's, and we deal with it at Christmas. We could deal with it.
Well, Sunday has become, Sunday rest has become, sorry, all I was going to say is Sunday rest has become Sunday stress.
Yeah.
Because what's happened is that now, nothing to do with religion and legislating how religiously you approach Sundays. I'm not suggesting everybody has the digital detox we have.
I'll come to you in a minute, Kathy.
Just stepping off the mouse wheel.
I like the sound of the 52 days of Christmas. I'm not sure that is actually what's in the Bible. Emma, you've got someone with an interesting take on this.
He's not going to tell me about the Bible. I've got Matt Writtle, a documentary photographer, who's just published a book of photos of things we get up to now on a Sunday. Matt, you came back to the UK having lived abroad and you noticed things had changed changed on a so-called day of rest. What was the difference for you?
Retail, I think. I think most of the difficult thing that people struggle with now is that shops are open, and like your panelist said, there is the opportunity there to just want to go out and do the shopping.
And what are some of the images that you decided to include in this collection?
Well, unsurprisingly, the main one was the IKEA. They were very generous. They allowed me to go into their store in Manchester, and I documented people shopping in IKEA on Sundays. And football is another massive change since the invention of the Premier League. People now go to watch football games more on a Sunday than they do on a Saturday. And then there's also, but on the other side, there's this sort of success of religion is the Pentecostal church has seen a dramatic increase in its attendance figures. And
so people are doing a range of activities, not necessarily, with the exception of that last photo, not necessarily relaxing or engaging in any way with what they're thinking about, just consuming.
Yeah, I guess the traditions are still there. I mean, people still do the things that they've done for generations, but I think there is a gradual erosion of those moments where we actually did used to stop and just reflect on the week we've just had and the week we've got coming ahead.
Yes, well, one of the photos I used to particularly resonate with me. I was looking at some of the images, thank you very much, Matt, there, for students lying in their own squalor in front of the TV on a Sunday. There are photos of me that exist like that, but not available right now.
And Kathy, I mean, we just looked at some of those pictures. Yeah. IKEA, it was women with their children. Yeah. So you say that that women used to work really hard when Sunday was a rest day, but it puts more pressure on women.
But women, working mothers juggle so much. We could be in the Cirque du Soleil, and trying to fit all your shopping in after work or on a Saturday.
Well, this just adds another stress.
But at least it gives you an opportunity to do it maybe on a Sunday afternoon, and not cram everything in the rest of the week. And also, you know, my only commandment is thou shalt not bore. And when I first moved to Britain 28 years ago and all the shops were shut on a Sunday, Sundays were so boring because it's always raining, you're stuck inside. Sometimes I was so bored doing creative things with Play-Doh, I could see my plants engaging in photosynthesis. At least being able to get out of the house, go to the shops, go to the movies, whatever, it's liberating.
George, what do you think of that?
I don't know about anybody else's family, but I know when I was a kid, I used to help my mum in the kitchen. So it wasn't just mum on Sunday doing it. It was a family thing. You know?
You need a halo.
Can you do 3 hours on a Friday morning? No ironing.
but no. In our family, we had a big family, 7 kids. We all mucked in. And actually, mum was the manager of the house. I mean, and Christmas was a family time. And what I'm saying about Sunday, or it could be Saturday in the Jewish context, is that whole bringing together the family. Yeah. A situation where it doesn't cost you more on Sunday.
And Kathy, it's not necessarily boring. It's family time. It keeps families together. It's important.
Well, I would bring... You can have family time, yes, but it doesn't have to be on a Sunday. Friday night, sit and watch a movie and have popcorn, go to the park or whatever. It doesn't have to be on the Sunday. Yeah. Bring back Sunday lunch if men do the cooking. That's fine, because believe me, I use my smoke alarm as a timer. I am not the one to do the cooking on Sunday.
Serena, let's let Serena come in.
Could I make the point that we're all talking about family time, but actually this isn't something that many people have access to. You know, our workers are younger, people are living further away from parents and siblings, people are having children much older. So this idea that everyone has to have Sundays off to allow the people who have families to spend that day with them is kind of putting people in a situation where it's not actually...
George, this gives us choice, doesn't it? This gives us choice.
What I'm saying here is that look at a day off, and if you work anything tirelessly over and over, it's going to burst. And that's what we're seeing with mental health problems, and so people are getting stressed out. And just take a chill pill, whether it's 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon or Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And I do want to make this point. You see, I believe that God put this as a Sabbath because it's actually the best idea. But I'm not saying that you do it because God said you do it. You do it because it is actually the best idea.
Without question. I mean, the thing is that I've got a lot of non-Jewish friends and colleagues who have actually jealously looked at me and said, really? You turn everything off on Friday afternoon? Of course I've missed out on work, and of course I've missed out on things that I could have wanted to go to, but the payoff is so much greater. Yeah. The feeling of regeneration and regrouping is monumental.
Well, we're all working really hard here, but people at home are watching, putting their feet up. Let's see what they're saying, Emma.
Yes, and they are on their iPhones or whatever else they're getting in touch on. George says, I have thought we should return to Sunday being treated as sacred for a long time. I remember them being undoubtedly better and more respectful regretful and happier days than they are now. Faye says, my husband's a chef. People would lose their marbles if he didn't cook them their Sunday lunch. Our weekends, or whatever day he has off in the week, does make day trips quieter with most people at school or at work, though. And Elaine says, I think there's nothing wrong with people keeping a holy day, whatever their religion. In fact, a day of rest is probably a good idea for everyone. But what no one has a right to do is impose that holy day on others by whatever means possible.
Thanks, Emma. Kathy, what will you be doing today?
Well, I'm going straight back to bed. I mean, men often... It's the day of rest. Men often say, what does a woman want in bed? Breakfast. Breakfast is what we want. So I want to have breakfast in bed as soon as I get home.
Anyone else doing something interesting
I'm
today?
going to church.
You're going to church?
I'll probably sleep on the train home, but I'll still regard it as a day of rest and then drag my daughter to the park rather than to Claire's Accessories or somewhere else.
And Serena, will you be resting?
No, I'm going to be working because Sundays for me are actually one of the most convenient days to do my job, and I'm really pleased I have the freedom to do that.
And you don't feel stressed?
I don't feel more stressed than anyone else, I don't imagine, no.
Oh, you'll learn.
But do you take a day off?
I do, and I take it when it's suitable for me in different hours on different days.
And you're going home to cook lunch.
I'm going home to cook. Well, I have to now, don't I?
Come around.
OK, well, that's it. I'm going to stop you on that.
Places, please.
Thank you all very much indeed.